Lunch Money Lambert, Jeff Malott. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation.
KBN Live is brought to you by Dugout Bait and Tackle. Dugout Bait and Tackle is the premier kayak fishing outfitter in the Southeast. Go to dugoutfishing.com, find everything you need to set yourself up for the 2023 kayak bass fishing season. KBN Live is also brought to you by ProGuide Lithium. Go to ProGuideBatteries.com and find the power you need for everything on your kayak. Also sponsored by Western Sun Vodka. Go to westernsundistillery.com and use the bottle finder to find a retailer near you.
Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to KBN Live. I forgot I shortened that thing down, Ryan. I wasn't quite almost ready.
I didn't know there was a new one, so I was kind of confused myself.
I was almost not ready, but here we are, man. Happy Monday,
Almost
everybody.
ready.
Yeah.
Almost
How you doing,
ready.
man? You wore out?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I came home. I came in early. We had a day full of doctor's appointments and stuff today. So I got out of Florida pretty early. I got to one last ramp that was closed on Sunday morning, and that was pretty much all I needed to see. I hung a left and got back on the interstate. See you later.
Oh, man. I know the opener wasn't quite what you wanted it to be, but from a fishing perspective. But did you have a good time seeing everybody?
That's the most fish that I've caught in a tournament in Florida.
Really?
So yeah, I was not upset with it at all. Pre-fishing, and it's always like this. It's always warm and sunny and beautiful the whole week. And then tournament morning, we were all kind of taken back a little bit by the brisk north wind, and it was like 47 degrees at the ramp we put in at. And I luckily found a pair of random sweatpants under the back seat of my truck that probably saved my life because it was freezing out there.
I was watching the Okeechobee Elite Series event, and I saw that wind blowing in on Fox Sports Saturday morning. I thought, oh God, if it's that far south, it's got to be hitting those boys up on Harris Chain too. And sure enough, it was. But
it was blustery pretty much all day.
Yeah. Our guest tonight didn't have a problem with it.
He didn't.
Somebody in the comments already said his name is Ewing Major after this past weekend. It's Ewing Minor. We've got Ewing with us. The Minor brothers were all over that leaderboard once again. So not a big surprise that they were starting their season off with a bang. We'll talk to Ewing here in just a little bit about his big win. Being down there, Ryan, how was it with the rule changes? Did you notice any at all impact with the ramps, defined ramps, things like that?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm sure some ramps were way overcrowded. Ours really wasn't. I think we may have had like a dozen people. It was Matt Ball and Jody Queen and Brady Stores, Pendergraph, Matt Scotch, Nolan Minor. Like, it was all people that knew what they were doing, I guess what I'm trying to say. So it wasn't some big charade of, you don't know how to park or unload or anything. I did see some of that pre-fishing. Like, there's like a big enclosed trailer, and I'm waiting behind it for them to manually load their kayaks, carry them up from the water there to load in this enclosed trailer. And I'm like, okay, this is finally over. Now I can load my kayak. Well, when they pull off, there's like another truck with this trailer like jackknifed across a 2-lane boat ramp, and I was like, God, never mind.
There was a guy that used to fish a lot of kayak tournaments. I don't know that he does anymore down in Texas. Robert Morton, hell of an angler, really good angler. And he would always come to Lake Fork. He had a garage on wheels, one of those big enclosed trailers, carried 2 Hobies, every piece of equipment you can imagine. He used to fix everybody's boats so that they'd break on Lake Fork. Yeah, but he knew how to back it down and get out of the way. He didn't do that to people. So
those are handy. I think for the enclosed trailers, like you said, maybe over to the side or so. Like, I think if you're, truck bed loading or, something you're going to have to use a cart or something anyway, maybe just try to keep that off to the side and let the flow of trailers, because those Florida boat ramps, man, like, it's not just kayakers. Like, these are retired people that are out on their bass boats like every day of the week. So there's not really a slow time out there.
So I was about to mention this, but it looks like he is in the Facebook comments. Ryan Thompson said, then there was me, the guy that got his trailer completely totaled.
Dude.
For a quick minute, man, on our page, there was a picture of a guy that got backed into by a Nebraskan kind of T-boned the tongue of his trailer. I thought the post got deleted or something because I never saw the follow-up.
Well, I went and looked for it after you guys were talking about it in the group chat, and I was like, what is going on here? And I couldn't find it. And I was like, man, this is strange happenings.
Yeah, Ryan, let us know in the comments. Did that get resolved? Did the Popo arrive? Did you get the guy's info and get that taken care of, or what? Did you make it home? How'd you get home?
That's crazy. And I mean, just for anybody that ever actually damages someone else's property, always like leave a little note or contact or whatever. You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be that big of a deal. Usually if you talk it out or, you know, pay for the damages or whatever, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
Hit and runs are no bueno.
Yeah, I wonder how he fixed it. Him hit.
I don't know. I was thinking, man, I don't know what you could do. Like maybe turn the trailer on its side and try to have a couple big boys jump on that tongue or something. I don't know.
Some crazy. Did you hear anything about the new payout scale down there, man?
Well, there was leading up to it. There were a couple people that were asking questions like, has a payout been published? You know, do we have any idea what it's going to be? You know, I think we're at 150 some odd anglers.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like $7,000 is pretty solid for 150 anglers, but I think that 10 grand mark is the key. And I know attendance will affect that a lot. I would like to see, you know, a fairly specific round numbers pay scale, just so as you're signing up, you kind of know what you need to hit to get to a certain tier.
Yeah. I kind of liked that they split the difference between what Bass was doing and what they were previously doing with Hobie, to where that they didn't go like 25% deep in the field, but bumping it up to 15, got a few more people their entry fee plus gas money to get home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I did notice with the ramps, we had several update emails throughout the week. So like as you were pre-fishing, you may have pre-fished a ramp one day and then it was not legal the next. So that's something that I think the TDs are going to learn, you know, and I called Steve-O on the way home and I was like, hey man, any ramps that you put on that's like an RV park or, you know, these like pay launches where they're privately owned, but they're open to the public, make sure they understand like the number of people that are coming and that kind of thing. Cause I think that overwhelms some of these smaller RV park type pay ramps. And they just said, we're not going to do it.
So they just closed up shop, said no.
Yeah. So that ramp I drove to the last day, which was my fault because I didn't read the latest update email. I guess I clicked the second update or something. The name of it was still on there. So I just typed it in my Google machine and that one had been closed and another one had been opened up somewhere in the general geography. But by that point I was already pretty solidly pissed off and heading back to the house.
I got you. Yeah, I figured there's going to be a slight adjustment period for the anglers and the TDs with some of the new rules, but overall, looked like it went pretty dang well from a distance. You know, I wasn't down there.
I think so. I mean, I haven't heard any stories of, you know, potentially shady happenings down there. So,
yeah.
So that's always a huge improvement when you have that much backwater in play, I feel like.
Yeah. And the janitor, Steve Fields, was out and about. He had some great footage from pre-fishing and throughout the tournament, even some live video stuff. So
he's stepping it up, man. Steve's out there.
Steve's out there, man. He's doing it.
Yeah, literally, he's out there.
Yeah. What else we got, man? I got a reminder from Steve. Got some corrected info. The next big tournament on the docket is not this weekend, but the next. Gunnersville, Lake Gunnersville. Yeah, baby. Ryan's hometown, basically, in the backyard there. Registration ends this Friday for that at 10 p.m. So be aware right there. Lake Gunnersville, March 4th and 5th. That'll be my first tournament, Ryan. I'm going to be there.
You're going to love it. You're going to have a great time.
Coming to see you, man.
Going to have a great time.
Yeah. So
if anybody knows where I can quickly and easily locate my Bassmaster ID number, I'd appreciate that. I search Bassmaster in my emails and I have hundreds of emails from Bassmaster. None of them have my number on it. So
I think you can log into Bassmaster and then it'll show it to you.
How do you log into it?
That email is your username, and then you can probably just do a reset out of your password or something.
I don't know. I tried to log into it and ask my Bassmaster ID and my zip code, and I was like, well, here we are.
What I would do is go to Steve's house.
Yes. Everyone go to Steve's house. Sedman Hills will knock on his door.
Yeah, he'll tell you. He's got a list somewhere. What else happened before we get Ewing in here? Oh, there was some kind of funny threads, but sharing information as well. Threads on the new KBT. Ryan.
so I saw that I guess it was like a screenshot of their page or whatever that got shared. Like what, I didn't know what it was, honestly. KBT, like that, wasn't very descriptive in my opinion. And then once I started reading the comment section, I realized that apparently that's going to be the new team model that was KFL.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So KFL is now rebranded to the Kayak Bass Team Series. And from all indications to my people on the ground, they're changing from games to matches, which is the first step in the right direction.
Okay. That's good.
So there we go. Now they're making a lot of changes from what I understand. New teams, different teams, reorganized teams, different people in charge. So we'll see. Didn't some people reach out and want to come on the show about that, Ryan?
Yeah. Yep. We got a couple guests lined up to come on and talk about it. And we've had a great time poking fun at this deal. But in the beginning, when you first saw the model, you first saw the propaganda that was being spun out to the sponsors, it was pretty apparent that there was a lot of misdirection going on as far as views and engagement and numbers that are very easily measured via analytics software. So that was kind of what threw up a red flag in the beginning. It is fun to make memes and laugh about this stuff because it imploded just like it was said that it was going to. So, you can't be like, oh, KBN hates the world or whatever. If people can post here, they can post anything. It's a public forum. Will I laugh at it? I definitely will. Yeah, but definitely. I'll also offer advice to these guys when they DM us or whatever, or let them come on the show and talk about it like we did last time KFL launched. I mean, we're here for it, man. So
yeah. And you know what? I mean this in all seriousness. If they put out a good product, I wish them the best success, and I will cheer for them dudes and give them props if they put out the good product. So, and I think they can, depending on who they got, running the show. So we'll talk to them here soon. KBBT, just KBT.
Not anymore, pal.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. We'll get them on here before long. Let's talk sponsors, and then we'll get Ewing in here. Of course, Dugout Bait and Tackle, the presenting sponsor of this entire show. We appreciate them. Did I see they tricked out a kayak for Mr. AJ McWhorlers this week?
I think AJ is going to come back to fishing, from what I hear.
Yeah, ever since the bridge incident, he's kind of been out of tournaments, but he's ready to make a comeback.
Don't get intimidated out of kayak fishing, AJ, please.
Yeah. So he had a pretty sick rig that Dugout was doing. They've done a bunch of good ones down there, but yeah, Dugout Bait and Tackle, dugoutfishing.com. Did I see the Carson Newman team, I think, swung by there this week too on the way to a tournament?
I heard there were some kayaks in the backs of trucks.
Yeah. All right. So Dugout Bait and Tackle. Then we got Pro Guide Lithium. The next tournament we have is Bass, obviously, Bassmaster on Gunnersville, and it is a motor allowed tournament. So the Pro Guides will be coming in clutch.
Oh, yeah.
For that one, if you're a motorized fella or lady. Then, of course, Western Sun and Revo. We're not doing a Revo gun giveaway tonight, but we will next week with our guest next week. Every other week we're doing that. But we would appreciate if you would share the stream anyway on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, just tell us where you're watching from and if you're watching, just go ahead and hit the like button, and that somehow helps us on YouTube. So we appreciate you over there.
No one really knows how YouTube works.
Yeah, I don't know. It just sends it out into the YouTube ether, and then we rise up somehow to be at the top of the mountain. And one more thing, Ryan, before we get you in. Special shout out to the audio listeners. Our audio podcast keeps growing and growing and growing. And obviously it wouldn't do that if people weren't listening over there. So we appreciate you guys. So if you are listening on Apple, I want to say iTunes, but it's now called Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever, leave us a review over there. Tell us what we can do better. Tell us your favorite episode. Tell us anything, but leave us a review over there or follow us. But we appreciate you guys on the audio podcast.
We might not listen to your advice on what we should do better, but please tell us anyway.
Yeah. We need the reviews, but we just appreciate the downloads and listens anyway. So there you go. All right. With that said, how about we get the young gun in here, my man?
He's probably in bed now. It's late.
Might be. He's tired.
Dun, dun, dun.
How's
Look
it going?
at him.
The Wall of Fame.
The Wall of Fame. How you doing tonight, Ewing? Tired?
I'm fairly tired. I got well, last night after awards, we left and drove about halfway, stopped at a at a truck stop and tried to sleep. Didn't get much sleep, but got back, went to class, and took a little bit of a nap so I wouldn't fall asleep during the middle of this podcast.
Attaboy, you deserve a nap.
You're a young
How
man.
was the truck
You can
stop?
hack it.
It's pretty terrible.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, it was a Love's, which is usually really nice, but it was just a really small one, and bathrooms weren't great. But you know, it had a McDonald's for an egg McMuffin in the morning to get me going, so it's good enough.
Did you take Jordan Marshall's advice on truck stop showers? Is that how you ended up there?
No, I just needed somewhere to stop, and there was a convenient place about halfway.
Marshall called today, and he was like, "Hey, where are you, Lambert?" And I was like, "We're in like the Piedmont doctor's office in downtown Atlanta." And he's like going down the interstate through downtown Atlanta. He's like, "I'll just pass that. I would have stopped." He spent a little extra time down there in Florida recouping, I think.
Bless him. Well, we're going to talk about Jordan a little bit because I think you had eyes on Jordan for a lot of this tournament, didn't you, Edwin?
Yeah, I had. Yeah,
we'll get into that here in a little bit. But first of all, man, congrats on getting the year started like that. Big win for you, man.
Yeah, it was a pretty special weekend. Day one, I've never caught, even fun fishing, I haven't caught fish like that in my life. It was just lights out.
That's crazy, though, that, it just, to be in that proximity and it's on fire one place and not the next. So tell us about you coming down for the tournament, because you weren't in town like PKA and all week. Like you weren't, down there on last Saturday practicing all week. So when did you come in, and how did you kind of determine like, well, this is where I'm going to roll my dice and see how the tournament plays out?
Well, I drove down Thursday after class, got in around, I think, 1 a.m. And I practiced on Yale on Friday. I found a bunch of fish, just no size. That was kind of the oddball thrown into the tournament, since it's not directly attached to the Harris chain, being that I fished those two college tournaments in January. I had seen the whole Harris chain. I had spent a couple hours on Yale, and I liked the lake, but things changed a lot, and it wasn't what I was expecting. So I really just, during practice for the college event, it was our second day down there in Florida after out of 11 days. We were graphing along, and we found a grass patch in Lake Dora. There's not a whole lot of grass in there. It's just a mud hole. And we made a couple casts in it, and my fishing partner caught like a 4-pounder. And as he was bringing it in the boat, one bit me, and I shook it off. He dropped a waypoint on it and left. And I hadn't thrown a cast on it between then and tournament morning. But
so this is a good story. Why didn't you get to fish that during the college tournament?
Well, so during the MLF college tournament, we went to run over there. There was a boat sitting on it. So we ran through, went to Bouclair, caught like 5 for maybe 4 pounds. It was pretty terrible. Lots of fish, but lots of small ones. And we ran back to try to get on it again. There was still a boat on it, and we just kind of scrapped that deal. We went to Harris, and that's where we spent the rest of the day there. And all of our fish that we weighed in both tournaments were off of Harris. But during the Bassmaster event, we didn't even try to go to that grass patch, because we knew, it's a very popular area, that part of the lake over there near the Dora Bouclair Canal. So people were graphing all over it. Everyone knew about it that was fishing the tournament. And it was boat number 6, I believe, is what they were. They went and they started on it. They had 29 pounds on day 1, and then 17 on day 2. And they ended up winning the event. And I had some buddies that fished there on our team. They got a top 10. I knew that the fish lived there. It's kind of a perfect staging area, since I think where the water's so muddy on Dora that a lot of the fish leave that lake and go to Bouclair to spawn. And that's their stopping point.
So in the college tournament, there's obviously a lot of competition getting to the spot. How did that set up different for the kayak tournament? Did you guys have a lot of other people out there, or was it pretty much just you and Marshall staring each other in the eyeballs all day?
I mean, there were tons of people over there at that ramp, but I was stressed because knowing how many people had found it during the college event, I thought surely a bunch of people were going to be going, and I took off pedaling as hard as I could. I maintained 5 miles an hour in a K12 360 for, I don't know, probably only 4 or 5 minutes, but I did get smoked by an Old Town.
You go to the wrong spot though, apparently.
Well, Jordan
he hit the grass and had to clean his prop out.
Hey.
Jordan and I were going straight across to that spot, and everyone started hanging a left going to Bouclair. So we just slowed down and took it easy the rest of the way, and never even had a single person look like they were going to come try to fish that spot. So.
And to kind of elaborate on what Edwin was saying, all the people going to Bouclair that launched with them. So the only ramp that was actually on Bouclair didn't open until 8 a.m. So if you wanted to be fishing it for first cast, you had to launch on Dora and go through.
How does that work down there? Is there canals that connect all these lakes? Is that the deal?
Yeah.
No, you don't have to like lock through, just open canals.
Well, Apopka and Griffin both have canal or locks to get to them. And the Apopka lock fits 3 boats at a time. It's terrible. People take forever to get over there. And when they're spawning, that's the place to be.
That's also every alligator in Central Florida lives on Apopka. All of them. And buffalo.
Apparently that's where they put the nuisance gators.
So I heard that, and I didn't know if that was just Thomason messing with me, because I had like 8 gators around me while I was trying to play with those buffalo the other day. And he's like, that's where they put the nuisance gators. I was like, why would you do that to these people?
One of my buddies on the team, he was fishing over there, and someone told him, like, hey, be careful around these gators. Like, so if someone lives right next to a canal and a gator eats their dog, they'll come and catch it and
take it to Apopka.
They'll take it to Apopka.
That's why I didn't see any dogs out there.
Yeah.
They don't bother the giant buffalo though?
Dude, there were 6 of them like in a semicircle watching these buffalo like play around on the edge of the water. And I was like, this is like National Geographic about to go down right here. I felt like Snoop Dogg narrating National Geographic.
Were any of them big enough to take a buffalo, you think, Ryan? If they'd have teamed up, maybe?
Not any of the ones I saw. I heard there was like a 14-footer over there way back in the canal, but I didn't see them.
There's some giant gators. I've seen that one in the canal. It's lived there for a couple of years from what I've heard.
Wow. Tell us about this spot, man. When sometimes these magical spots can be the size of a small car, or they can be 50 yards wide. Tell us about that a little bit.
It's about 50 to 60 yards wide. They spray a lot in Florida, so finding green grass is key. And it was a hydrilla milfoil mix, which most of the living grass in that lake is eelgrass. And I mean, I'm sure Ryan knows from his experience on Gville that eelgrass 90% of the time is terrible.
Unless it's the only grass.
Yeah.
Then it's all right.
But yeah, it's just a small grass patch on a point, and the fish, I know there's a ton of fish in there because on day 2 I turned on my live scope and there's just fish swimming everywhere in it. But I don't know if they were reloading or if they were just setting up and becoming active, and that's why I would hit flurries. But I don't know how it held that many fish. It's pretty incredible.
Do you think you were catching them coming and going, like they were going to spawn and coming off the spawn, or did they spawn there yet?
I was catching both pre and post spawn fish, so definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
So with Marshall in that close of a proximity to you, why was he catching all the tiny little fish and you were catching the giant fish, do you think?
So I started off the morning. We were both just winding our jackhammers around like you typically
like boys will do,
Yeah.
Boys being boys.
And
they're winding their jackhammers.
And I ripped my jackhammer out of some grass and my hand slipped off the reel. And as I was going to get my hand back on the reel to start reeling again, one knocked the crap out of it, and that was a 21 incher. So then, I threw a couple casts, not really thinking much about it. Didn't get any bites. So then I tried ripping it out of a clump of grass and just killing it and letting it fall back to the bottom. And I caught another big one and then another big one. And
what?
Every single fish over 18 inches that I caught on day one ate my jackhammer as it was falling back to the bottom.
So you didn't tell Jordan. That's illegal these days, right? You can't.
Yeah, I really wanted to, but it was hard for me to not, just seeing one of my good friends struggling like that. And
you just look over and keep smiling as you're hoisting those giants out of the water like, sorry, dog.
I think it probably didn't help when I had, 94 inches or something, and I was just sitting off of it, trying to let him, figure it out and catch a few bigger ones. And he set the hook on a small one. I was like, well, he hasn't had a bite in 15 minutes. I was like, maybe they're getting fired up. And I fire out there and catch a 21 after he pulls in a 13.
Was he just not doing the retrieve correctly? Was that it?
He was just winding it. You had to kill it.
This reminds me, Jeff, of that picture that we posted of Jacob Penny with his hand off the reel in that Jackson photo shoot. Maybe this is what he was doing that whole time.
It's called the ghost retrieve. Ghost retrieve.
That's smart. That's tough, man. Especially it being a jackhammer bite. And as you said, Marshall's kind of the jackhammer wizard for the most part to sit out there and have to bear witness to not only anyone doing it, but Prince Edwin doing it makes it sting a little more, I feel like.
I usually don't throw a jackhammer that much. It's one of those baits. I'm like, well, I'm at this tournament, especially kayak tournaments. I'm like, I know everyone in the field's throwing it. I want to throw something different, but
then that's why everybody throws it.
That's true. When you're in Florida, if you're not throwing a golden shiner jackhammer, you're probably getting beat by it.
Yeah. It's kind of deja vu to what happened to your brother down at Caddo. He was sitting there with Nelly, TOC champ, same spot, and Nelly's just catching giants, and your brother's struggling to catch him right next to him. So
yeah, except Nelly had that certain bait.
That's right.
Which would make it a little less frustrating if it was just I don't have the right bait. But when you're throwing the same thing it's not like we were on two different parts of the grass. We were sitting on the one stretch. The wind was blowing at our backs, but at a slight angle. So, as you're trying to stay off of it, it kind of blow you across it. And we were you get to the end of the grass line and you loop back to the front and you start over again. And yeah, if I was in his situation, I would be very frustrated too.
I heard from the man himself, he had a bit of a Marshall meltdown.
Yeah.
Bushhead meltdown, as they were called. Really?
Yeah. Did you have your GoPro on at Ewing?
Well,
have any footage of that?
So on the way down, I bought everything. I got all the mounting stuff and chargers, everything to run a GoPro. And then I realized I left my GoPro in my apartment. So,
hey, boy.
Yeah, that one really, really would have been a nice day to have on camera.
Yeah, I'm kind of, frankly, Ryan, I'm disappointed in Jordan's ability to observe what was going on. If he was that close
could you have held your jackhammer up and dropped it and looked at him like, just kill it, bro. Just drop it.
That's a gray area. I don't know if I'd be able to do that, but I mean, he could have looked at, just sat there and watched.
That's what I'm saying.
That's probably what I would have done in his situation. Just watch, be like, all right, what is he doing different? Because we had communicated before the tournament about, hey, like, let's fish this spot together. We've been working a lot together ever since that state championship that we fished together on Chickamauga. We've been going fishing a bunch. We've become really close, but before the tournament, I knew I wanted to practice on Yale. So I told him, he was fishing in that area, and I was like, hey, go check this out. I don't know if there will still be fish there. I said, if they're there, it would probably be enough for both of us. And I mean, I really wanted him to catch him. It hurt me to sit there and not be able to say, hey, when you rip it out of the grass, stop reeling. But I guess that's why they changed those rules, because it probably would have stirred things up a little bit on the leaderboard if I was able to tell him that.
Right. Fair enough.
I think we're moving in the right direction on the, sharing info stuff, that kind of thing. I mean, I still think we have a long way to go as far as kind of bringing some more legitimacy into the deal, but I definitely think we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah,
I will say I really like I said it at Caddo, I'll say it again. I love the designated launches, because the worst part about fishing a kayak tournament is when you go and you start pedaling to this spot on the first day of the tournament, then you realize, oh, there's a ramp closer to it, and everyone beat me there.
Yeah.
Or there's not even a ramp. Remember that hole that I fished on Eufaula that was 40 miles up that creek? And I get all the way up there, and there's already a kayak in there. Oh, he dropped off the bridge back here. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, stuff like that. I don't care if you want to outwork me for it, but damn, little gray area shortcuts aren't the way, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's good. And I think it helps with pre-fishing and a lot of other things as well. It eliminates that gray area. I got your day one up on the screen. Obviously, day one, I want you to take us through day one as it developed for you. And how quickly you figured out the deal you just described to us. But 108 inches, man, 108 inches. You caught 3 21s, a 21 and a quarter, and a 24 and a quarter. What a way to start the year for, just for the entire tournament season to get off with somebody busting 100 inches. But how'd that feel, man, to crack 100 on day one?
It didn't really feel real. Like, I was just sitting there like, am I going to keep culling? And every time I'd start fishing again, I'd cull. But it started off early. I mean, I started smashing them early on. I had 94 inches at probably 9 o'clock, and I think by 9:30 I had 98 or something. And then I really just backed off, and I watched Bass Live, TikTok, YouTube. And then Steve Fields pulled up, so I decided I'd make a couple casts, and I caught a 21 and a quarter that put me over 100 inches. And then I gave it a rest again, and I just sat there. And, well, no, I guess when I caught that 21 and a quarter, because with the new communication rules, I wasn't sure what all I was allowed to do as far as contacting people outside of the tournament. And we discussed the rules a little bit. So I called my mom, and since I hadn't submitted my fish, I couldn't tell her what I had. So I was just, at first she was like, shouldn't you be fishing? You only have 4. And I was like, oh, I'm just enjoying the weather. Like, don't worry. I was like, I'm fine. I'm having a good time out here. Like,
I'm sandbagging, Mom.
And we talked about all sorts of random stuff for hours. And when I was keeping an eye on the leaderboard, and I saw Justin called up to 99.75, and I said, hold on.
Crush him.
I said, hold on. I've got to make a few more casts. And I think I made 4 or 5 casts and caught that 24 and a quarter.
No way. Just casual?
Yeah.
Well, Justin's still fishing, so hang on a minute.
Hold
I'm
on,
gonna bust
Mom.
a 25er.
Hold on, Mom. I'll be right back.
I mean, I really shouldn't have landed that one. It was, like I said, I killed my bait. And when I went to reel it again, it felt like it was just really bogged down in grass. And I was yanking on it, doing all sorts of stuff, trying to get it out. And then it shook its head. And I just started reeling. And as soon as it hit the surface, if that fish jumped, I wouldn't have landed it. It stayed down. I thought it was a catfish forever because one of my buddies caught a 10 or 12 pound channel cat off that grass clump during practice for the Bassmaster event. And when I got it up to the surface, I saw what it was. As soon as it opened its mouth, my jackhammer came out. I got the net under it, scooped it up, and I did some screaming and yelling, and luckily no one heard and slid to investigate. But
Was Marshall still there when you caught that one?
no, he was not. He had
Okay, you could just hear his face beating off the
That'd have been the end of
driver's side
Marshall's
window of his truck.
Yeah,
I think at
Marshall's-
that point, because his plan B was where Justin caught him.
That's what he said.
And I think he was over there. He said he hooked a couple solid fish, but they just came unbuttoned. Nothing you can really do about that. But I mean, that fish put me at 107 something, that 24 and a quarter. And I sat there until 10 or 15 minutes before last cast. And I was sitting there thinking, this is a very popular area. I know a bass boat's going to slide in after I leave this. So it's like, I'm just going to make a few more casts and try to get another big bite or something, since I got that 24 later in the day. And I ended up catching a 21 incher to cull out 20 at
Cullen 20s.
3.
You dirty dog, you.
That was the one that put me up over that 108 mark that set the record for the one day.
Yeah, that was unreal. Let me ask you this. Did you talk to Justin, Cody, Shane, any of the other guys that did well on day one? After the fact, were they doing the same? Did they figure out the same deal, or were they doing something different?
No, they didn't. I'm not exactly sure how Justin was fishing. I know he was throwing a number of different baits, but really he was just, from looking at it on a map, since talking to Jordan in practice, we went through the different places that he was checking out, and he said, based off of how he described the area, it seemed like it was a spawning area that the fish would pull up into. And it's not necessarily the same, but the fish were going in there for the same reason, to and from the spawn. Whether they're pre-spawn or post-spawn, they don't go too far afterwards. But
Shane threw a jackhammer all day and wore them out. A lot of the people in the top 10 were just slinging jackhammers. It was crazy because pre-fishing, I didn't hardly get bit at all on a jackhammer. My deal was like a flipping and speedworm type deal.
Well, if I understand it right, day 2, the weather changed, wind shifted, right, out of the south or
out of the northeast.
On day 2?
No, yeah. Well, so day 2 started northeast, and then it worked all the way around the clock. Yeah,
I got you. So run us through day 2, man. Was it just rinse and repeat on day 2? Same
day
thing over
2
again?
Was pretty miserable as far as the size goes that I was catching compared to what I was expecting, and just the overall situation. I don't think the lack of wind is what messed me up. I had bass boats constantly running over the grass. I don't know why. I'd stand up, wave my arms like a madman. They just act like they never saw me and run 50 yards in front of me right over top of the grass. And grass fish do not like motors, especially ones that are that pressured. So every time a bass boat would run over top of it, I wouldn't get bit for 10 or 15 minutes afterwards. And it was seemed like every 10 or 15 minutes a bass boat was running over. I caught those two 19 somethings early on in the morning, and I mean, almost back-to-back casts. Steve was there for both of those, but since there were bass boats running over the grass, I backed off of it a little bit and caught those two, which I mean, really helped settle me down a lot. And from then on, I switched it up a little bit, tried dragging a worm since it was and I caught fish on a worm, I caught fish on a drop shot. Thing that ended up helping me at the end of the day. But I guess I had a really long lull in the middle of the day. I flipped some reeds nearby for maybe 15 minutes, and then I just was like, why am I doing this? I know the fish are here. I just got to stay there. And I went back out there, and I actually had to turn on my electronics. Well, I had just the map up previously in the day before, but I had to turn on my live scope and actually target the taller portions of grass throughout that patch of grass. I think with the boats running over, they went into the thickest stuff they could get. And I caught, I think it was in the last hour, that 20 and a quarter and the 17 and a quarter maybe. But it was a grind on day two. I caught more fish on day two than I did on day one, but I made 10 times as many casts, and they were much smaller. But just stuck to it, sat on that spot, kept throwing the jackhammer. And the fish, they were definitely acting finicky because they were eating it funny. On day one, all the fish that I had were, except for the big one, were hooked, in the roof of the mouth way back. And on day two, I was getting them in the corners, just barely skin hooked, in the bottom jaw. They just weren't. A lot of them were missing it. I'd get like 5 or 6 bites that knocked 2 foot of slack in my line per fish that I'd hook. And then I jumped off probably 8 or 10 bass on day two, 3 of those being in that 19 to 21 inch range, but didn't end up mattering too much. I might have been able to pop BDH on his seminal 2-day total if I had landed those 3, but can't be that lucky to break 2 records in 1 week. But
I'd say you did enough, it seems like.
Yeah, I caught enough. I was still stressed before I had caught that 20 and a quarter and the 17 and a quarter at the end of the day, because I felt like, you saw what I had on day one. That can just as easily happen to anyone because the fish get so concentrated down there on that chain of lakes that it could happen in 5 casts. I mean, that place has a lot of big fish. They're smart, they're finicky, and it takes a long time to find fish. I'm sure everyone that fished down there noticed if you just go down the bank fishing, you probably won't catch but a fish every mile. Whereas and then you go find one little stretch of grass and you can catch them out of it all day. And I'm not sure if that's just the way that chain of lakes is, or if it's where they decide to pull a U-follow on them and just spray all the grass.
I was watching the Elite Series some on Saturday, and I saw the guy that ended up winning it, Rivet, last name Rivet, from Louisiana, live scoping in a canal for all the days he was down there catching them on jerkbaits, which I thought was like sacrilegious compared to how you should catch them on Okeechobee. But when I saw that happening, and then I saw your name up on the leaderboard, I thought, man, I wonder if Ewing's scoping them up there on Harris Chain. But then on your day one pictures, I noticed your deucer just laying in the floor. You didn't even have it deployed, did you?
No, I did not. I didn't even have 2D sonar or anything on day one, because since when I get, especially fishing grass, I try to leave my electronics off as much as possible. Those fish, I mean, they'll all pile in there and they will bite if you don't pressure them too hard, especially on community holes like that. And I disabled all sonar, down scan, side scan, 2D, live scope, make sure it's all off so I don't have anything pinging. The only thing that I have is my fins flapping around down there. But on day 2, it definitely helped out a little bit at the end when I brought out the scope again.
Day 2 looked like, and I mean, Ryan, you talked to Shane some. Day 2 was like moving day. It looked like there was tons of guys that came back from like 50th and 40th place all the way up into the top 20, top 15. Matt Millard jumped all the way to the top 10. One of my teammates, Dontrell Sullivan, jumped all the way to 14th from like, I think 51st. Mm-hmm. What happened on day 2, do you guys think, that made that leaderboard flip like that?
I think it was just people were getting kind of dialed in on what they were doing after the first day. And then really just probably the biggest factor is the lack of wind. People were able to fish what they wanted to. People were able to sight fish, and it just opened up a whole lot more water that was unfishable the day before.
I think on day 1, people tried to focus on areas that were maybe out of the wind. And if they did well, they fished it so hard on day 1 because they were limited to that area, like a small canal or something that the fish had pulled up in spawning. I think a lot of people fished that stuff out on day 1. It didn't replenish for day 2. There's no reason for a whole new batch of fish to pull up in there on a cold front. So I think people kind of fished their stuff out. And then day 2 was like, it was scramble day, try to figure out plan B. And they might have scrapped plan B on day 1 mentally because they couldn't get to it. So they're like, uh-oh, like now what do I do?
Yeah, it was cool to see that. It, gives folks for the season, seeing it in the first tournament for the season, to kind of know, hey, as long as you got a limit on day 1, you got a fighting chance, right? If you have a limit, you got a fighting chance.
I think probably 80, like around the 80-inch mark was the fighting chance mark probably on day 1 in this tournament to put yourself in position to make that move. Because what cut a check? It was like was it 170 something?
Is it
I think
20?
170 and a quarter.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was around 170. So
they paid 23 spots, 22 spots. What'd they pay?
I think
yeah.
23.
Yeah, Rolando was 23 right there at 170 and a quarter. Our man Steven Sisto right there at 22nd cashed him a check.
Yep, he slid on in. Steve-O slid. He slid in blind on it too.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Well, Sisto magic.
Shane got him a check. Shane made a hell of a run at it day 1.
He did. He was waxing them on day 1, man. That area that they were in, because it was pretty much just like him and Dave in there on day 1. I thought they were gonna do really well on day 2, having that much water to themselves. They said like 10 more people showed up at the ramp after that day 1, which is, that's part of it, I guess.
Yeah, let's see. I've got some questions for you, Ewing, as we get down here towards the latter part of the show. James Haberly says, how deep was the grass you were fishing?
It was up the shallower part up towards the bank was probably 7 foot, and then out on the edge was 10 to 11.
Levi Schneider, I'm curious why Ewing made the switch from 2 Garmins to 1 Garmin, 1 Lowrance on his kayak. I didn't know you did that. So
I did. I'll tell you the exact reason. So at Caddo, Bailey was catching a lot of fish on hard spots, and he showed me what they looked like on his Humminbird, and I was like, all right. And I found out my Garmin side scan just wouldn't pick it up. And my roommate and fishing partner, he runs Lowrance's on his boat, and I really like the side scan on it. I don't like Humminbirds. They have great maps, great images. I just don't like the units overall. I like having touchscreen, and if you get a Solix, it's kind of just Humminbirds are weird. They're out there doing
all them knobs and buttons and whatnot.
But no, so I got that Lowrance for the side scan, and I mean, as soon as I turned it on, I haven't adjusted the settings at all, and it looks probably 5 times better than my my Garmin side scan. But I mean, just how the pros are doing it, you got to have a variety of brands to have the best of both worlds.
Good stuff. Let's
What
see
else you
here.
got?
YouTube Digs Outdoors says, with so little grass, do you think that's where all the bait fish went to, or it just filled up with bass since it was the best cover around?
It's best cover around, and it's, I mean, really, Florida bass, they love grass. There was a lot of bait fish around, but there's bait fish everywhere in that lake. I actually watched on day 2, waiting on first cast, a school of needlefish came over top of the grass, and there were 5 and 6 pounders coming completely out of the water, just crushing them. And then a bass boat ran over the spot, and I didn't see any fish school for the rest of the day.
Chopped them all up.
Those guys not know that that grass patch is there? They just didn't care.
Oh, I think they know. It's just when you get to I don't know about the rest of Florida, but when you get to the Harris Chain, common courtesy between fishermen, you can just throw it out of the window. As long as you're not damaging someone else's boat, anything goes. Really? I mean, you can pull right in on someone, just about be bumping rub rails. And
it's interesting.
It's because
those pleasure boats are pretty rowdy down there too. There's not really any kind of like courtesy on how close they come to you, or cabin cruisers just blazing right by you, swamping you. They don't seem to care too much.
Matter of fact, I had a much better experience with the pleasure boaters than the bass boats. I think it was really just the bass boats were trying to cut the corner to get there faster, and they didn't care that I was there. Whereas the pleasure boaters, they were just out there having fun. So when they see me waving my arms, they'd go around. They probably thought that they were going to run up on a shoal or something, but
watch out, there's a shoal here. That's what you should have said to the bass boaters.
I think if we go back to the Harris Chain, I'm probably going to bring a big sign with an arrow on it that says "Run this way."
If you put a no fishing sign on it, that'll attract people. Don't do that.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, the pleasure boaters I think that's a big part of what those 2 calls at the end of the day was. I think the tournament was, most of the tournament boats were already headed back to the ramp. And when there was a lack of bass boats, I was able to keep all the pleasure boaters from running over the spot and giving those fish a little bit of rest from a prop chopping over their head all day.
I got a lot of comments saying, like Rolando saying he got buzzed so close on full plane, like pitching distance. Crazy.
Yeah, they're down there.
David Myers on YouTube says he lives on Dora, a lot of rental boats down there, and they don't have a clue what they're doing. That makes sense.
Well, they have more of a clue than the bass boaters that were running 20 yards in front of me all day.
Yeah,
I went and pre-fished in the canal, in the Dora Canal, just to see it while I was down there. And it was like bumper boats, like all these fools in pontoons running into trees, running into each other, trying to pull over an anchor, like right there in the freaking canal. That's the main highway. It was pretty wild.
That's what makes that place good, is when you got a lot of boat traffic stirring everything up, but they're not on plane, they're idling, so it's just pushing the bait around a little bit.
Ryan, was that you that was telling me that they're challenged on driving on the highways down there too?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a mess. Florida people can't drive. No offense to anybody in Florida. You can probably vouch for it. Florida is like its own special world almost. I mean, it's insane. People cutting each other off at gas pumps and stuff. They are just in savage mode 24/7.
Yeah, well, I've spent a lot of time down there since, I guess, about December 20th or something, just in Florida in general, and I've seen some just weird stuff. People in Florida. I mean, the
Josh
Florida man
Counts.
meetings. I'm
Josh
pretty
Counts says it's just Central Florida. It's not the Panhandle. Don't worry. Those guys.
Panhandle's pretty weird too.
It's all weird. Everybody's from everywhere. That's people that are trying to escape other states across the country. They're all moving there, and it's just it's too much. Too much intermingling.
That's the good
culture.
thing about Arkansas, Jeff. No one wants to go there, so you're safe.
Hey, where I live,
not me.
Yeah, where I live, that is not the case. Unfortunately, everybody's moving here, and it's not necessarily a great thing. But We're surviving.
What's next on the list, Edwin? What's your next tournament win?
You doing the bass stuff? You doing the bass stuff?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a few of the bass events. I might fish that tournament on Gunnersville, the Bassmaster event. Gunnersville is a great lake. If anyone's on the fence about it, definitely sign up. It should be a slugfest. Maybe not 108 inches to lead, but it could take that. That lake produces some giants, and there's just a ton of 18 to 20 inch fish. And if you like grass fishing, should be a good event.
Good stuff. A couple more questions, real quick. Rolando, what Garmin unit do you have and what transducer?
93 SV. I've got LVS 32. I had a GT 56 for my side and down, but it's
Rolando's about to tell you how to tune that thing, boy.
Well, he doesn't have to because the transducer ripped off of it.
David Neff, also on Facebook. What are your top 3 go-to lures?
I'd say drop shot, jerkbait, and
chatterbait.
I had the first 2 guessed in that order. Your third one, I'm up in the air on. I don't know what you're
probably. I don't know if I can say a swim bait is one lure because that varies from a 2.8 Kitech to a 9-inch glide bait, but just a single swim bait is a big player for me, being I live scope a lot. Those are 3 baits that are very popular with it. So
I meant to say something on your picks. I think on the day 1 picks. Did you have a spy bait laying on your deck?
Oh, I think that's been laying there since Winnipesaukee.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just in case, though.
It's embedded in the deck mat.
I don't know where it went, but it just kind of showed up. I didn't know it was there. I cleaned out my kayak a couple weeks back, and the spy bait just reappeared.
Just in case. Like
yeah,
Ryan's
you
hooks.
never know when you're going to have to go to Beauclair and catch a couple 12-inchers.
Boy.
Yeah. Few more.
So you're fishing Caddo. Do you think you're going to win Caddo, or is this probably going to be like a top 10er?
I think I'm going to let Jordan win Caddo, but I'm going to get second in that one.
Let him win Caddo. I hope you heard that, Marshall. Marshall's at home taping his rods back together, getting ready for Caddo.
Well, there's no taping that back together. I'm not sure if it was 4 or 5 pieces, but it was a lot of them.
Elvis Lee mentioned something about your Garmin unit. He said that GT56 makes 0 difference on your 93. You got to have the 106 SV Ultra to make any difference on the side scan with the 56. So maybe that's why.
Well,
I heard that as well. I think Elvis told me that when I got a 106. So
I like 9-inch units. So
yeah, it's not the size that matters.
If I went with 2 10s or a 10 and a 9, but it's
10 inches just seems like a lot,
Yeah.
Seems
it seems a little excessive to me, but no, I like my setup that I have. I love that Lowrance. It's been a great unit for me, and probably not going to change it. I've seen a lot of screenshots of Garmin side scan, even with the 10 and 12 inch, and it's nowhere near what the Lowrance is getting. So, and I'm not associated with either company. That's just
You're not associated with Garmin for sure now.
You're a regular Jacob Wheeler. That's what you are.
Hey,
quick YouTube question. What jerkbait, when you name jerkbait in your top 3, is there a specific one? Throwing the Megabass like everybody else, or what? You got something else?
Yeah, usually just throw a Megabass.
All right.
Easy money.
Easy stuff. I don't have any more questions lined up. You got anything else for the kid, Ryan?
I don't. I was just looking at your career numbers here, Edwin. Seminole 12th, Watts Bar 2nd, Hartwell 1st, Champlain 5th, Susky 2nd, Santee 20th, which was the low baller for the check for you, Broken Bow 1st, Susky 2nd, College Gunnersville, you won that, College Championship on Hartwell, won that, 5th at TOC, and now 1st at Harris. Do you feel like you're on an upward trend here?
No, I
You feel like you're on a downslide, winning the first event of the year?
I'm definitely, I've learned a lot fishing all these different lakes, fishing with different people. You know, I encourage people to stay with different groups of guys and try to learn something from each person that you talk to, you know, after practice, tournament day, whatever. But, you know, between all the different people I've stayed with and all the different styles of fisheries, I've definitely learned a lot, as well as, you know, being on a fishing team with 30 some kids that were all recruited to come fishing. That helps a lot to learn from people that are being noticed by a college coach, that, you know, just whether it's going to a tournament or just going out on Cherokee and catching some crappie.
I mean, how big of an advantage is having a network like that, like a team of anglers, and you guys are encouraged to talk to each other and you know, help each other and share what you found and that kind of stuff. How big of an advantage is that when you've just had 2 tournaments on this body of water going into it? Like, it seems like you'd have a pretty solid idea of the breakdown of the different bodies of water on that chain going into it.
I mean, being on that chain for 11 days, I already had a pretty solid breakdown of it. And it's not dirt. If you go to the Harris chain during a big event and you just look around, you can tell where the fish are. You'll run for 3 miles and not see a boat. Next thing you know, oh, there's 5 boats sitting within 20 yards of each other right over there. It's probably bass.
It's like birds.
I know where Matt Millard had those, because we talked after the day we launched at the same ramp, but where he caught his fish on day 2, where he had that big bag, there were probably 25 boats sitting on that spot during the college event. I mean, it was coming through Belle Claire, like, it was almost unsafe to run on a plane because there were so many bass boats. It was crazy. But yeah, really just, I mean, we're open about everything, with how we catch them, where we catch them. I mean, there's always some small secrets, but it definitely helps. I mean, you see Hartwell there, my buddies won that tournament right before I won the other one. But if you have friends that fish a body of water and there's no rules against asking them, hey,
oh yeah, for sure,
tips, like, maybe not necessarily here fish this, and this, but okay, like, say, like, you go to Douglas right down here and they say, oh, Muddy Creek was good for me. It'll give you a good place to narrow things down, especially out of a kayak. You can't cover a whole lake. And the Harris chain especially, there were how many lakes in play? 8 or 9?
9, I think, yeah.
We didn't have enough practice to even see all of those lakes.
Oh, for sure.
Like, it was definitely helped me a lot to have that previous experience, but I mean, it made it so I wasn't able to go down there early because of, class missing 2 weeks right off the bat didn't help much. But and then again, just that same networking stuff, like me and Jordan talking, I had eyes on the place and I knew kind of what the situation was in different places. I was able to tell them, like, don't go over there. You might catch a 12-incher if you're lucky, or that's a good area to be checking. So, I mean, regardless of if it's, me with college or anyone with just a group of buddies, me and Sisto talk about stuff. I talk about stuff with Dylan, my brother, Jordan, usually whoever's staying in the house with me. When I'm staying with you, Ryan, I'm pretty open about
you'll rub everybody's nose in it if you're on them.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of staying in a house, Billy Bowden asked, he said, tell Edwin he's got to go to Big Sam again. Ask if he's of age. He already said he's turning 21 soon, but are you going to the Rayburn in the fall?
I believe I have to. I think the college events, the BOS, I think it's going to be college BOS. One of them, I believe, will be in conjunction with that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Very cool.
That's kind of the rumor.
Little double dip opportunity.
I think Seminole and Rayburn will be kind of a double dip opportunity.
That's
which
cool, man.
I think is a pretty good idea, especially since, I mean, we'll be having our expenses covered for the team to travel down there. It means the only expense those kids have is $295 entry. Yeah, it's a lot, but I don't think there's very few people, especially that being sent to college by your parents, that can't say, "Hey, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, like, I need $295. I want to try fishing this tournament." It's just a good experience to have, and being that the school covers those traveling expenses is a pretty big deal.
Hey, all this money you're winning, dude, you could stake them and then get a little payback on the flip if they cash, right?
Do it.
He's like, the wheels are turning. Look at him. Look at his eyes.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Ewing, congrats, man. We're gonna let you slide out of here.
All right.
Unbelievable. Congrats once again. Way to start the year. We'll be pulling for you
that's
all year.
pretty big jump there right out of the gate. So we'll see what the next couple have in store for you.
Thanks for having me on.
You bet, buddy.
Yeah, man. Good job.
You have a good one.
Oh, man. Ewing Minor, everybody. There you go. The kid. He's not a kid anymore, Ryan. He's a young man.
Crazy. It is crazy.
God.
I mean, just going through his tournament finishes, that I feel like he cashes a check more often than he misses a check on the Hobie side of things.
Somebody in the comments earlier said they had him at 50K in earnings. Is that accurate? Do you think? Could be.
I mean, lifetime or
yeah, like over a couple of seasons of doing this, because he's won a couple, came in.
I mean, I would say so. TOC, Susky paid well. Broken Bow, obviously, first place, paid well. TOC was a fifth place, so that paid well. Harris, obviously. Susky, second place the year before, paid well. Hartwell, he won. Watts Bar was a smaller tournament. I think $5,000 was first for it. So that was, I'd say it's ballpark.
When he's like a old guy like me, he'll be able to tell us, yeah, I paid my way through college kayak fishing. So we'll be able to tell them.
Well, you know as well as anybody, Jeff, the tricky part about fishing is just like upgrading electronics and motors and kayaks and travel expenses. Like, while it feels like you're making money doing this stuff, most of the time you are, like Todd said, the tax man comes after that. When you win this stuff, old government, Uncle Sam's coming after his 42%. Like, you're not getting to keep too much out of it.
Yeah, and while we were talking, this one flew by. Ryan Thompson.
Oh, man.
He gave us the full update on the trailer incident. So apparently the cops got there, got him back to the ramp, got his info, adjusters are involved. So they are going to get
that
resolved.
Is insane.
Yeah. Bunk taped on with Gorilla Tape. Overheated bearing. I mean, what a disaster. Not the way.
Man, that's tough. That's tough.
Oh, wait, Todd even throwing in some KFL. He said won 2K in the KFL last year. Young Edwin did.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. And now defunct. It's like the
he broke it. Freaking Edwin bankrupt the KFL. Good job, Edwin.
Hey, man, how did he win in the KFL? He was not.
He won like performance artist of the week or something a couple times or something.
I'm so confused by all
that. Hey, that's the mystery of it, brother. KBT gonna be smoother.
Todd, are you in the KBT? Are you in the board of directors or whatever? I want to know.
The Rebirth Island, KBT.
Yeah. Who we having on for that? I don't even know who's reached out. Is Robert Brown involved in that?
Robert Brown reached out. Rich Biggie reached out. Both volunteering to come on and shed some light to the revamped team series.
I want to talk to him, man. I want to talk to him. I got
a lot of questions. Questions, Jeff.
I got homies that are on teams now. There's new teams being formed. There's another team that hadn't even been released yet that I got a graphic on. I'm going to share that.
Unreleased. Is it the Banditos Volume 2?
No, it's even better.
Even better. Okay, all right.
Oh, Todd wasn't asked, he said. So now he's. Ooh, they don't like
dang.
Todd.
That's rough.
Well, Todd, we like you, so that's enough. You're okay.
Yeah, heck yeah.
You're okay. Ryan, what a good show, man. Good show.
Solid. It was solid.
Yeah.
Good old Edwin knocking one out first thing. Good way to break the ice.
Need to get him a girlfriend or something. Throw him off the rails.
Right? I know. That'd be a miracle. Just kidding. JK. We're gonna find him on the Shreveport.
Yeah. Well done, Edwin. We love you. We're proud of you. All right, Ryan. We go.
Oh, take it easy, guys.